Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Truth Talks Live, a production of the Truth Movement New Brunswick. I would like to welcome our regular panelists, Larissa and Courtney, with us today. And we have the honor and privilege to have Hamed Esmailion with us today. Last year, on January 8th, 2020, above Tehran, Iran, Ukrainian Airlines flight PS752 was shot down by a surface-to-air missile in the sky above Tehran. And Hamed lost his wife and his young daughter in this attack. So Hamed is here with us today to raise awareness. And I just first of all want to welcome you to the show, Hamed, and thank you so much for being here to share your story, your pain, and your resilience and determination to find justice for not only your family, but for the entire um, crew and passengers who did lose their lives in this very brutal attack. So I'll just turn it over to you to a moment for a moment there and just share some thoughts with us, if you will.
Thank you for having me, Jan, and thank you, Larissa and Courtney. Yeah, if I want, if I want to talk about PS752, I can talk to you till tomorrow probably, because there are lots of different views and different aspects of this crime that Islamic Republic of Iran has committed. But yes, as you said, on January 7th, if you go back to chronologically, like just review what happened. It was like 3rd of January that the general of Iraq IRGC in Iran got killed. And Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran, was talking about hard revenge for 5 days. So my wife and my daughter, they were in Iran, like other passengers, and they were planning to come back. And on January 7th, even the parliament of Iran passed a motion to give IRGC 200 million euros for the hard revenge. We didn't know what this about. Anyway, 6 hours before they attacked the US bases in Iraq, Islamic Republic of Iran informed United States, Prime Minister of Iraq, and other countries that we are going to attack you, and to not kill anybody or to not actually do the revenge. They just wanted to show others that that was a propaganda of the regime. Okay, we retaliated, or we took the revenge of our general, something like that. So most of the passengers of PS752, they were not aware of this attack. Like my wife, she had no idea. When the last time I called her, she was on her way to go to the airport. So at 1:20 in the morning of January 8th, they attacked the US bases in Iraq. And then at 5:15, this flight was supposed to take off from the airport. But there's a 57-minute delay that nobody knows what happened on that 57 minutes. Was any passenger taken off from the plane? They didn't explain to anybody what happened actually. So 6:12, the airplane takes off. At 6:15, they shot the first missile. And 30 seconds later, when the passengers were alive, based on the black boxes, they shot the second missile at the time that the pilot was trying to go back to the airport. And 3 minutes later, 3 minutes and 40 seconds from the first missile actually took to the airplane to crash on the ground. So nobody survived. And for 3 days, they lied. They lied to the world, everybody, to the families, that it couldn't have been an attack. It couldn't have been a missile, nothing. It was just a technical failure. But after that, they had to admit it because of the pressure of Canada and the United States and other countries. And this is like a 16 months battle, an even battle of the families and this regime to find the truth and have justice one day. So I'm ready to answer your questions if you want to review any aspect of this.
Okay, perfect. So I guess I'll start out. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions in one, I guess. So you just mentioned that, there was pressure from the, Canadian government and the US government. So have you felt supported, first of all, by the Canadian government? And is there a decided lack of difference in support from the Iranian government? And also, I'm curious about the media. In what way is the media playing a role to assist the families of the victims of this attack? And is there a difference between the media, throughout the world and in Canada and in Iran itself?
Oh, okay. So I think each, you asked three questions and each takes a lot of time, but I just tried to
Just
summarize
take your
that.
time. Take
Yes,
your time.
okay. Okay, so Canada initially did great. I mean, the support that we got from Canadian government was very good at the beginning. I remember I was in Iran and it was day 5 that day 6 the Canadian delegation was in Iran, and I was probably one of the first people who called them, and I had a meeting with them, and my three demands from them was to for repatriation of my wife and my daughter, and to bring my brother-in-law for the funeral, and because everybody else had visa or permanent residency card, and the third one was my safety. So they helped me to for repatriation. Without Canadian team in Iran, it was not possible because they don't respect the dual citizenship in Iran, and they try to tell the world that all of these passengers they were Iranians, and they forced me actually and other families to go to the foreign ministry and sign a form that my wife and my daughter they were not Canadian. So, and they took their Canadian passports. Nobody, most of the passports, I think I can tell you, majority of passports, they were looted, like other belongings of the passengers, because they bulldozed the crash site like few hours after the crash, despite this fact that they had to preserve this crash site for the investigators to come. So that was the support we got from Canadian government. But when we came back, you remember, it was like the pandemic, and then everything went very slow, and till now we are still waiting for a firm and resolute reaction from Canadian government. We have seen something here and there, but in a nutshell, no, we are not happy. And that's from our government here. Iranian government, Islamic Republic of Iran, is a rogue state. They have done everything to hide the truth. They have done everything to hide behind the international regulations, like to not tell the truth. And for a flight that it took just 3 minutes, we have waited 15 months for the final report. So you can imagine the black box story took 7 months, and we had to go to the politician, to everybody, to the media, to just force Iranian government to give the black boxes. And final report, same story, 15 months. And finally, when the final report came out, there was just lies and deceits. And so this is two different government. I can't compare Canadian government with Iranian government. We talk about two different eras, because Iran, like Islamic Republic of Iran, is not a normal player in the game of diplomacy. They are just delaying, and they're buying time. And delaying tactic is well known that they use it all the time.
Mhm.
So for the media, so we have Iranian media and we have Canadian and world media, like the Persian media or Iranian media, which is out of the country, based in London and Europe. Uh, they try to cover the whole story, but nobody did an investigative job. Nobody. And Canadian media, we have some reporters on CBC that they are very dedicated to this cause. But you remember, I want to give you an example. You remember about the hockey team, that tragedy that happened in Alberta a few years ago. You all remember
Yes.
those 16
Humble,
teenagers, those
yes.
great men, and who died in that Terrible, terrible tragedy. And I remember each one of them face by face because there have been lots of documentaries on the media about them. And I had the privilege to know them and see what happened to their families. But what about 29 children on PS752? Nobody knows about them. And some Rira, my daughter, used to go to school here, grow up with Canadian culture, sing along with Shawn Mendes. Like she was a girl, like Iranian Canadian girl with Iranian descent, but nobody knows Rira and other 28 children. And I think this is a lacking part of the media and the TVs and everything. Like they didn't cover the whole story. And a few weeks ago, there was a documentary on CTV W5. They didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg. No. And we are very disappointed that we have no voice. And let alone like I mean the world media. You don't hear us in United States. You don't hear us in UK or in Sweden. Sweden lost 17 citizens. UK lost 4 citizens. And BBC World, they have interviewed us just 2 or 3 times, like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. That's what we had for last 16 months.
Right. And there were also, was it not 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents of Canada who perished as well? And my follow-up question, and then I'm going to move on to Courtney. I would just, do you feel threatened, or do you feel like I suppose you can't speak for other people, but do you feel like intimidated, threatened, or do you like have an opinion on maybe why the media or why people do not give this the attention that it clearly deserves because of the lack of democracy and, threat of retaliation and harm to families and, from the Iranian government? And have you felt intimidated or threatened yourself?
Jan, I have nothing to lose, so I have no fear, and I'm not scared of that government. I know them very well, and we have, there's a history of Iranian government of terrorism out of the country, inside the country. They have murdered several Iranian activists and artists out of the country in the last 42 years. So I have said that to the police here too, that by this history that they have, they're like able to do anything, but it doesn't scare me. But in the last 16 months, I talk about just myself. I have received a lot of messages, especially from inside the country, that you're on the list of terror, and you're, like the last one I got from like 2, 3 days ago. It was a real person in Iran, and he said, now United States and Iran are going to have a deal, and you will be mad and hope you will die out of madness, and you will join your wife and your daughter. So things like that coming to us, and I don't pay attention anymore. The only thing I do, I just send this to the officials here that these are the messages that I receive.
Good, good. So I guess this is what we're aiming to do today, is try in some way to help you and, well, you and others, and raise awareness and get the word out there, and let them see that beautiful picture of your wife and your daughter. So I'm going to turn it over to Courtney at this moment, and let her make an observation or ask a question. Go ahead, Courtney. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Your story is really tragic, and I can't say how sorry I am for your losses. I guess I would like to know what we can do. Like, what is it exactly that we can do to take action or to try to make a meaningful impact or help? Like, what are some, specific actions that the community and people in the community could take to help you and others who are affected by this tragedy?
Okay, so like 2-3 months after this happened, we established an association. The families of 145 victims are part of this association. We have a website, ps752justice.com. So you can be a member, you can make a donation, you can support, like raise awareness about this website. And there are the stories, like biographies of 82 passengers, like in Farsi and in English on that website. And soon, I think in a week, we're gonna set up a letter to be sent to your MPs about PS752 and the demands that the families have. We have had several requests from the governments here in Canada. Like the main ones, first one was the condemnation in International Civil Aviation Organization (ICAO). This was not approved. When we go to ICAO, we have sent letters, tons of letters to ICAO that you have to condemn this. At least that's the least that you can. But then they say we have to stay neutral and Canada should do it, or United Kingdom should do it. So that didn't happen. So the other request that we had was to have an investigation, like independent investigation. This is something that we will see next week. I mean, the team of the Canadian forensic team is working on a report, so they're going to publish it next week. So everybody is waiting. All the family members are anxious to see that because they will reveal some of the truth. But the other request that we had from the government was an independent legal team to put IRGC in the list of terrorist groups, to like freeze their assets here, and Magnitsky Act, which is the same, to apply them on the Canadian government, to the Iranian officials and the IRGC commanders who live in Canada, who are in Canada, and they do money laundering in Canada. So we asked the government to stop that because I said to officials before, me and my wife and other passengers of this flight, they were law-abiding citizens, all of them. They were like students. They belonged to like education society. But then you see commander of IRGC, they have luxury lives here, and they spend a lot of money here, and they do money laundering here. So I think what ordinary people like us can do, just raise awareness about this, that the rogue states like Iran, China, Russia, they do horrible things in the world. And then they have apologists and lobbyists here in Canada to just do whitewash for them, for their crimes. So one of the things that you do here, I think, is the best way this Zoom call, is the best way to raise awareness among the Canadians.
Good. Thank you. Courtney, did you have another question?
We'll make sure that we have a link to that website for you.
Thank you.
Yes, we will continue to do what we can to help raise awareness. Thank you, Courtney, and Hamed as well. I'm going to pass it over to Larissa right now. Go ahead, Larissa.
Yes, Esmailion, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry for your loss and pain. One of the unique things I observed after the shutdown was that for the first time, the immigrants was not as unknown person. All media outlets talk about the individual stories of those who were on board. And I want to know how does, we can probably call it crime. I think we all agree that's a fair thing. How does that crime affect the definition of Canadian identity and the definition of immigrants? Thank you.
Oh, it's a very, very difficult, the question is simple, but the answer is very complicated. Yes, I am an immigrant, and so I came to Canada when I was 32, and I'm 43 now, 44, I think. And so in Iran, in Islamic Republic, in Iran, under that government, we had no rights. We were second-class citizens, third-class citizens, and you couldn't wear what you want to wear. You couldn't drink what you wanted to drink. You couldn't do what you wanted to do. So that's the main reason that the Iranian, that we have brain drain in Iran, and like highly educated people like from Iran, they come to Canada, to other countries, they immigrate. And that's the way to escape from that horrific government. But then we come here and we become citizens of Canada. It's very hard to say that. It's very difficult for me to say that. But I think if there were 85 Americans on plane, that was a different story. But, and this is not that I say, I talked to the safety board of Americans, and that's the only sentence, the first sentence that they said, that if they were Americans on the plane, it would be a different story. But we trusted our government here. And I think the government is ethically and morally engaged with this, because you can't walk away when you see 85 Canadian with Iranian descent, or other countries, like if you have 3 passengers that they were not born in Iran or they didn't have Iranian passport, but like majority of the Canadians were with Iranian descent. I mean, the government should pay attention to this. The first movement, the first good move that they made was appointing Mr. Goodell. And I think, I talk frankly to you, I think Mr. Goodell is very involved, very engaged, and we have had several meetings with him. But I see like some resistance in the government of Canada, inside of some ministries, that then they want to go to the least resistance path, like go for compensation and for an apology from Iran. And what the families have done so far, they just try to change this narrative from compensation to the truth and justice. I think that's the greatest work that the families have done. And we see that the government is following us, but we think that it's not enough.
Right.
And I don't know if
Well,
it's because of the being immigrant or Canadian citizen. I think that's just the nature of the government, that they're slow and reacting on different things.
I think that's partially, or probably, obviously, definitely the case, but, and I also feel like if it were an Air Canada flight full of 100 and some odd white people, that it would have been an entirely different response, and there would have been an outcry and outrage. So I don't, and I obviously I'm a Caucasian, and I recognize, the privilege that we hold, and we try to use this space to help others and raise awareness. So did you have another question, Larissa, or did you have any other comments?
Yes, please. I want to talk to you about safer sky interpretive. The argument for the safe sky is create a global system that prevents passengers' planes from flying in when there is a military conflict. For example, they try to do it when after the investigation for the MH17. I think that was the Malaysian airplane shot down by Russian. I think that was Russian army, and the same things happens, I think, to that airplane. We were on a conflict between Iran, Iraq, and United States, and they still let the plane to take off. I want to know your thoughts on that. Thank you.
I think the main crime that they committed was to keep the sky open that night. In that situation, any reasonable person would close the sky. And that's why we say that this could have been intentional, because why they didn't close the airspace at the first place? They were missiles going back and forth. I mean, going from Iran to United States bases, and they didn't close the airspace. For these, they can go to the International Court of Justice, because they intentionally did that, and they have confessed that on the national TV that they have done this. And you talked about MH17 that happened in 2014. It was July 17. I had to review all of these aviation crimes in the past. So July 17, 2014. And so what happened on that case? Because the perpetrators of the crime were separatists of the dependent to Russia. It's not proven yet that they were part of Russian army. So nobody exactly knew who did it. So 5 days after this, 5 countries of Belgium, Australia, Ukraine, Netherlands, and Malaysia, they sat together, they opened a criminal case, and they did an independent investigation on what happened. And in 3 months, there was a condemnation in ICAO. And in 15 months, there was a very good final report for the families. They are still going to the court as a process of the justice. But for us, that's a different story. Everybody stayed away. Everybody let Iran to do the investigation. At the time, like a year ago, we were crying in the media. We were shouting that you should not let Iranian government to do this investigation. You should stop this process. This is not like an accident or aviation accident or like a normal crash. This is a criminal act. This is a mass murder. But nobody really listened to us, and they said, okay, you have to wait for a final report. And we waited. We waited 15 months, and finally we said, okay, we knew that they're going to lie to you. But these are the reasons that they have to go to the court to answer the questions. They opened the airspace open. They shot 2 missiles to the airplane. They destroyed the crash site. They looted the crash site. They took all the belongings of the passengers. They took my wife's wedding ring. They took my daughter's dolls. They took everything. And the money has no value for us, but all those things that they had, like I don't know, they were like the last things that they had, and all of them were, we were deprived to have them. And then after that, intimidation of the families. They were not allowed to have the right funeral or like the memorial in Iran, and pressure. Every week, Larissa follows this story. Every week, the Iranian government are on national TV saying something about PS752. And now 16 months pass, and me as a victim of terrorism, I have nowhere to go. For civilians, for ordinary people, there is no court. And we can't take them to an international court because the only people who can do it are governments. Like government of Canada and Ukraine and other 5 countries, that the other 3 countries, that they don't look very united to us, because like UK goes to the talks about nuclear deal with Iran, like Sweden is quiet, Afghanistan doesn't condemn Iran on human rights issues with PS752. It's just only Canada and Ukraine, the only countries that they want to pursue justice for us. And our fate, our destiny are in the hands of the politicians. That's the honest answer to you. So we have to go to the meetings, writing letters, interviews, and I myself, I had no time for mourning. I just was busy with all these activities. Most of the family members, there are like 25, 30 family members that they work constantly, day and night, in the association to write letters, talk to the media, and we had no time for mourning. So this is terrorism. These are the victims of terrorism here.
Yeah. Courtney, did you have another question or observation you wanted to make?
Yeah, I guess I just, could reiterate that I'm, very, very, very sorry for what has happened to you. And I don't know, I guess I just can't imagine this happening and having so little support from the governments. It's just, it's baffling and it's disappointing. And I really hope that maybe with some more recognition that this could change for the better for you guys?
We have heard from the government in the last few weeks that they're going to react after the final, the forensic report is out. You know, you have to trust someone here. If you don't, where can you go? We families, we trust each other here because we go through the same pain. But then we trust the Canadian government and RCMP because where else we can go? And so we work with the government, and we hope that they feel this pain, this anger. I don't know, Courtney, how long you can live with your anger and your rage. For how many years? It's like 16 months that only feeling that I have is rage and anger. So 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. But we had the experience of Air India in this country. So they waited 15 years and there was no justice for them. And with that experience in mind, I think the government of Canada and other countries and the international community should set PS 752 as an example to the world that nobody else endures this pain that we are going through. You know, nobody deserves this pain. It's a surreal life. That's you know, I call it like parallel world, that other people, they have like normal life, but we just walk through them, you know, walk through the crowd, and they don't see us and we don't see them. So I don't know, we have done everything that a survivor can do, but we keep going. We are fighters. We are not going to give up. And so if you see us in front of the parliament soon, so don't be surprised. I mean, this COVID-19 was against everybody, was for Iranian government. And if there was not COVID-19, I was in front of the parliament every day. But now I have to wait because we don't want to risk anybody's life. And that's everybody, I mean, as a citizen's duty to do that. So we wait till everything is a little bit relaxed, and then we have to start our probably rallies soon.
Well, we see you and we feel your pain, and we will be supportive. I assure you that. Larissa, did you want to make a final comment before we go?
My understanding, the Iran government, they said they're gonna pay some money to the Iranian, and I want to say it in parentheses, they didn't say they're gonna give the same money to the three Afghan citizen, and I mean Afghan people, they're lovely people, but my understanding, no one accept the money. They said we don't accept the money, we want the justice. If the other countries that are gonna finally to get to the agreement with Iran government, what is your next plan? What do you want from us? And I also want to know, to understand what exactly, when you put the hashtag dadkhahi, and I always put it, what exactly meaning of the dadkhahi? Is meaning justice? Is meaning lawsuit? I think, and I'm so sorry again, you know, I'm really touched with everything you said. I'm really sorry for everything you're going through. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you know, after this happened, like 2 days after, 3 days after, they said they're going to pay $80,000 to each passengers. Nobody even responded to that because, you know, we said you can't put price on our loved ones. When you murder them, you have to come and tell the truth first. Then the perpetrators should go to the court, and we have to find out what really happened on January 8th in the morning, that like doomed morning on the January 8th. So then it was fall, I think it was November. They were talking about $150,000 for each passengers, and then they got the same response from the families. As far as I know, nobody has accepted that inside Iran or out of Iran. And even now, when today we are talking, the families, they got a letter from the court that the 9 unknown people are going to go to the court, and there's no names, and none of the accused people are the high officials of IRGC. We know that. So that's why I think that put the ball in the court of other countries. So now, when we don't know the truth and we haven't seen justice, the only way, one of the possible ways, is International Court of Justice. And for that, the 5 countries and Iran, there's a procedure for that. They have to go for negotiation. We have warned our government here that this negotiation should not last more than 3 months. And after the negotiation is arbitration in ICAO for 6 months. And if each phase is failed, then it's going to go to the International Court of Justice. We are talking about years, not about months or weeks. I wish we had like a easier way to do that. But the only people who can take Iran to the International Court of Justice are the governments, and there's a procedure for that. So there's just one chance. If somebody inside Iran comes out and says it was intentional and I am a witness, I know what happened, I pushed the button, I had an order to do that, that can change the story, and we can go to the International Court of Justice right away. Yeah.
Thank you both. I just lost a little bit of what you said there. I had an unstable internet connection there for a second, so I apologize. I did miss a bit of what you said, but I think in closing, you know, again, I extend my deepest condolences for your very, you know, tragic loss. And I know no words, no money, no, you know, anything is going to help until you do get the truth. And, you know, we are the truth movement, and we're truth tellers and truth seekers as well. So we very much, you know, support you in that endeavor. And I think it's very clear that, you know, a way that the public and viewers can help is to write letters and put pressure on our politicians here in Canada, and relentlessly write letters, you know, phone calls, emails. You know, this is a way that we can put pressure, especially, you know, when election time's coming around, or there's, you know, talk of a federal election. You know, this is a time to really, really engage and use your voice to help people that do not have one here in Canada, and have, you know, really nobody to speak for them. So I would very much encourage our viewers and people watching, and, you know, our panelists, you know, to help Hamed and others in this, you know, this fight against this tragic injustice and terrible loss that Canada experienced with the loss of 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents, along with everybody else on that plane. So I just want to thank you so much, Hamed, for giving us your time and for sharing your experience. And you know, if at any point in time in the future we can set up a show again, we'd love to have you back, you know, after, you know, maybe some more information has come to light that you're able to share with us. So, you know, we wish you the very best, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And it would be great to come back to your show and talk about justice and the truth again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the viewers, and Truth Talks out. Bye.